10 minutes, and suddenly we're
I
doing a
walked over
podcast.
to
I
their
was like,
office and said, "Hey, can I talk to you for like 10 minutes?" And then he came over.
So
I had talked
bad.
to the two science
But
toasters.
now I
Hey,
know.
can you guys come
Now
in
I
and
know.
just
Yeah,
talk
don't
about-
trust.
either it's a 15th notice or a podcast. Is
He
what
comes over and I said, "Oh yeah, all you do is you just put these on, you just put the headsets on." And
Yeah.
oh yeah, I said, "Put it on like you can hear or watch." Okay, yeah. Then Diego comes in. I said, "Diego, hit the buttons, do your thing." And then we sit down and we start talking about, science basically. We brought up the visit to College Park, the Lego idea, talked a little bit about project inspiration. That was fun.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. And don't be afraid of the table. You can
Oh.
scoot right up there.
Okay.
Otherwise, they're not going to see you back
Yeah,
there.
okay. All right.
Yeah. And how are we doing? Are we live? You're live. That's great. And guess what? It's exactly 5:30.
Nice.
Just want to say hello to all of our parents, to our staff, to our community that are watching. Thank you again for joining us. I said this at the beginning of our second YouTube live stream, but when we had the first event, we hit the live button right at 5:30. And then myself and the staff that was here sat here and watched the computer spin.
Oh,
I remember.
Yes.
And it was a terrible 5 minutes because I was just worried about all the families. There were like, I think at the time, a couple hundred online, thinking, oh no, what a flop. Our first event and we can't get online, right? And so we basically said, let's not do that again. Let's go ahead and just log in a couple minutes early to remove some of the stress. And I thought, while we're doing this, they can just hear us chatting with each other. So again, thank you all for joining us. We're here tonight to talk about a few different topics, actually, and we're going to go into them in just a minute. But I'm going to start by doing introductions. My name is Diego Ochoa. I'm superintendent of the San Mateo-Foster City School District. I'm delighted to be with you. And each of my colleagues is going to introduce themselves.
Sure, I'll start. David Chambliss. I am the Assistant Superintendent for Educational Services.
Thank you for being with us, David.
Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. Pam Bartfield, Director of Curriculum and Instruction.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Stephanie Gibson. I oversee the COVID pooled testing program, and I also serve as the coordinator of enrollment.
Thank you. Thank you. We have two people behind the scenes that I want to recognize and thank. Peter Kazanis, he's our Director of Technology. He's also very famous for being the person who helps public commenters, right? So he's got
He's so
a
good
lot
at
of
that.
pain
Yes,
there.
he is.
And then we have Diego Perez. Diego Perez is our communication specialist. He works directly with me, so thank you, Diego. Diego's actually inviting in our ASL interpreter. Hi, how you doing? Nice to see you. We got you set up right there. As you can see, he doesn't take a long time to get in. As you all know, we have an interpreter in the room, so I'm going to ask you to not speak over one another and to just really take your time.
Great.
Use the time you have, but try not to go too quickly or to just speed through your comments so that the families and community members who are taking advantage of the service can really participate throughout. I want to remind all of our viewers that if you're watching this live, it's actually set up to get input and feedback from you all. So Diego, can I see your notepad, Diego? Diego has his fancy Prism notepad. This is going to have a bunch of stickies with questions that people type into the live stream. So the whole point of this is to give information, but also to receive feedback from the public. And so part of it is sort of like what we want to present. And then the rest of it is really unpredictable. I don't know what questions they'll ask. So we'll do our best to answer them. But at the end of each of these, we always have a handful of things that we say, you know what, we're going to bring that back. We need to think more about this. And I'm going to get us and kick us off here with a couple of updates for everybody. One of our big areas of focus this year is COVID readiness, COVID safety, COVID preparedness. Stephanie, you famously were reassigned weeks ago to get the pool testing process started. You and I have recorded a podcast
Yes.
specifically celebrating our successes with pool testing, which has now been in effect. Is it 6 weeks, 7 weeks?
Uh,
Something like that?
There's been a lot of weeks of prior prep, and this is week 4 of in-school testing.
We're 4 weeks in.
Yes.
Give a message to the families. What's your big message to the families and to the staff that are watching about pool testing?
Pooled testing is incredibly powerful in slowing and stopping and mitigating the spread of COVID-19. And pooled testing brings the test to our children. I remember the days when we had to go to the expo center and line
Which
up,
is in the center of town.
which in the center of town had to make the appointment, get in the car and line up and go through all those kind of planning steps to do that. And for our students, and knowing how much, we're looking forward to having vaccine come online for ages 5 and up. Testing works, pooled testing works in giving our community a resource and a tool, again, to slow and stop COVID-19. You can sign up. Absolutely. If you're thinking about it for your child, you'd like to want to maybe see how the first couple weeks went.
You can use
We're
this.
good. Yes.
You can use a phone to sign up.
The form is always open.
Or
The form is always open.
you can go to your school and ask them for this is actually a paper sign up for testing.
Yeah.
Is that right?
Couldn't be easier. And the school just takes the form and you're done. You're done. So
There was a lot of concern at the beginning.
Mm.
Are the kids going to learn how to do this? How hard is it to do? Are they going to hurt themselves? Talk to the parents.
Sure.
What did we find out?
This, with anything that is new and different and just something to learn and adapt to, we saw how it went in the schools, and it's as simple as a little swab in the nose 4 times around in each nostril. Students are excited to participate in the process, to be involved in the community idea of slowing and stopping the spread of COVID-19. They have questions. It's really had some nice ripple effects in that it's engaging students in a process, and a process that serves our school communities and our greater community. So, students, they know the process now. Line up, hand sanitize, mask down, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, mask up, then come. They bring the tube to the students, they take the swab, put it in the tube. It's done. It's done. It's awesome.
Yeah.
It's really,
The
cool.
interesting thing too is when kids are in school, they're wearing these, they're hand sanitizing.
Yeah.
We set up the school so that we're making smart decisions about where kids eat, who they play with. We have adults all over the place watching kids behave. And what we saw in our September new COVID case report, which I'll hold up for the families, you're not going to read the details on here, but our communications staff, Diego, he's going to actually copy and paste the link to this report in the notes of this meeting. So anybody at home can click on it and take a look at it. And it doesn't take much to see that the case numbers are going down. Now, we were excited. We published a new podcast episode, yourself, your boss, the assistant superintendent, Dennis Hills, and myself, and Susie, your coworker, Susie Riley, celebrating our successes of getting COVID cases to drop. And we did. Over the last week, we had 2 cases total in the district. Unfortunately, we did have a vacation week where lots of families actually went and traveled with each other and went to events with each other. So we have seen the cases go back up. We're going to wait until Sunday to find out our new numbers. But as of today, there are already 10 cases in the district that we're aware of. So if that continues to hold, it's going to continue to go up. Now, that to me is even more reason to have pool testing, because we want to know right now to go ahead and knock out that transmission. Talk about the process we go through when there's a positive case positive case happens on a Monday, when do we come back and start testing kids?
Certainly. So the schools that test on Monday, and we'll use Monday as an example, their follow-up rapid antigen testing day is Wednesday. And if there is a positive pool, the concentric staff will arrive on site and they will administer individual rapid antigen tests for every member of that pool. And when a positive individual or individuals are determined, then the processes we have in place to then have the student or individual, sent home, and all that comes then with the monitoring and the
And
time
Susie
at
gets
home.
involved at that point.
Susie Riley, our coordinator of student services, she then picks up with the process, notifying close contacts, contact tracing. So all of those processes that were already in place when we became aware of positive individuals, those processes then pick up when we have a positive pool and then identified positive individuals. Yeah.
It's been a journey. There's many
Mhm.
more weeks ahead, many more months ahead, but I think we're on the right track.
Yeah.
I think if our plan is to stand strong. The next era of this process is vaccinations. So as we all know, the federal government has approved the timeline and the schedule and the process for vaccinations nationwide. The state and local health department are going to work together over the next couple of days to put some plans in place. I want families to know and staff to know I've advocated very strenuously for our district to host vaccination clinics.
Mhm.
I can say definitively that we are. I know some of the details, so we're not ready to promote it just yet, but we will do everything that we can to get as many children vaccinated as soon as possible. And the goal is to have as many vaccinated before the winter break. Get some vaccinated on the first dose in November and then have them follow up in December and get that second dose. My preference would be to do as many clinics on our district campuses as possible, but we might need to help families get to testing centers or to medical offices or other external providers, but those vaccinations are coming. When you add that onto the mask wearing and the hand sanitizing, symptom checking, all the strategies, pool testing,
Yes.
evening testing, because remember, we still do evening testing throughout the district. I think we're really headed on the right track.
Absolutely.
Thank
Full
you.
court press.
Thank you for helping with that. Thank you so much for helping.
Certainly.
That's not the only thing we're here to talk about. One of the other items that we're here to talk about is the school board community workshops. This is a new process that we're introducing to families here. And our first event is actually going to take place next Thursday, October 28th. It's at 6 p.m. at Burrell Middle School. And I have Diego putting this document as well on a link into this event. Basically, the idea behind a board and community workshop is that school board meetings are set up as very highly structured procedures for a school board and an administration to publicly conduct business. So if we wanted to change a school district policy, we're going to do that at a board.
Mhm.
If we wanted to hire a new company to provide a service, we're going to approve that hire at a school board meeting.
Mhm.
If we wanted to hire a new employee, we're going to approve that hire
Mhm.
at a school board meeting. Now, the whole process is governed by something called the Ralph A. Brown Act, or more commonly referred to as the Brown Act. So the Brown Act has a lot of procedures and rules for how people have to conduct themselves at school board meetings. And one of the fundamental ways that it organizes the conduct of board members, of staff, and of the community is that it puts very clear guidelines around how they comment and what back and forth you're allowed to have.
Mhm.
So over the last couple of years, our school board meetings have had really highly contested and very controversial topics come up. And those often are met with hours and hours of what they call public comment.
Mhm.
So one of the issues that we'll discuss tonight again is the change to the math pathways that took place last year. I watched some of those meetings take place, and the public comment went on for 3 hours.
Mhm.
Now, here's the interesting thing about it. Every person that spoke had 3 minutes to talk. So you go in there, you have your speech, you speak for 3 minutes. After that 3 minutes is done, school board members can't respond
Mhm.
because there's another person waiting to speak.
Mhm.
So you spoke, let's say you spoke at 6:45 p.m. Okay. We got to hear what you had to say. You didn't speak until 7:55 p.m.
Mhm.
Can I really remember what Stephanie said at 6:45 p.m. if I've been
Mhm.
listening to 20 other people talk until you come up? I don't personally think so, but that's not all because you didn't speak until 8:45 p.m.
Mhm.
And I'm using 6 p.m. We all know this
Yeah,
was
it's
at 1 in the
later.
morning.
Mhm.
This
This
wasn't
is
at
not at 8 p.m.
Right.
Mhm.
This was from, so you spoke at midnight, you spoke at 1, and you spoke at 2. So it's just not a good venue. And what board community workshops do is we basically bring food to these meetings. We hire staff to take care of young children at the meeting. We bring on interpreters and we bring on translators. We bring the audio-visual equipment. We bring reports. And then we invite 2 school board members. And for the Burrell meeting, it'll be our school board president, Kenneth Chen, and Lisa Warren, one of our trustees. And we sit down. It's myself. It's the principal of Burrell. We're going to invite all the families from Park, from Sunnybray, from Baywood, and from Highlands.
Mhm.
I have a cheat sheet on my whiteboard for all the parents up there. And we're basically going to say, come and talk to these 2 school board members. The agenda is what's going on in this district.
Mhm.
There's no time limit. If a school board member hears something you say and wants to talk more about it, that conversation can happen. So that's kind of the big thing about these board community workshops. They're wide open
Mhm.
conversations. With dinner, it can be an hour, it can be an hour and a half, it can be 2 hours, just as long as the conversation's going. One thing that's very important for the public to know is that I can't have 5 school board members or 4 or 3. And the reason is that we're going to be discussing district business. And anytime 3 school board members get together or more, you have to agendize it and follow the Brown Act rules.
Okay.
So this is designed to simply open up communication between the community and parents and the school board.
Mhm.
After the Burrell event takes place, we've got Bayside and Abbott and Bowditch coming up after the fact. When we finish that first round, we're going to reschedule our second round. When we finish the second round, we're going to schedule the third round. The idea is to have 1 a month. 1 board community workshop every month, rotating at one of those 4 middle schools.
Great.
Pam, you've been an educator here
Mhm.
many years. You were a former principal,
Mhm.
teacher. Talk a little bit about your experience at school board meetings. What have they been like for you all these years watching sort of the seas change over time?
I think one of the things that you hit the nail on the head is that it is really difficult to engage in conversations with our community and our families at a school board meeting. Just due to the nature of the way the board meetings are. I remember just being a brand new teacher and coming to board meetings and they were scary.
I was going to ask, have you ever presented at a board meeting?
I present as a board meeting in my current position.
Yeah.
But not earlier than that. Yes, I
Yeah.
present at board meetings.
And I'm a superintendent. Board meetings are kind of my thing.
Mhm.
I still get nervous.
Yeah. No, I get
Because I
it.
know that there's a big audience. I know that people are watching. So it kind of, your anxiety goes up a little bit, your nervousness, your energy. I think that makes some people not go to board meetings
Mhm.
or never speak at board
Yeah.
meetings. So that's what I think is so cool about
Yeah.
these workshops is it's dinner and a conversation.
Yeah, yeah.
Some people might show up and just listen. And some people might show up and have a lot to say.
Mhm.
But we just definitely want many folks to come out and join us at this event. David, you speak and present at school board meetings all the time. You were there for all those marathons. I saw your face at the end. Looked like you were half asleep at some of them. What do you think about these workshops? What is your experience opening up these kind of communication channels?
Yeah, I mean, I think it is one, excellent innovation that you're bringing in, that the board is bringing. Um, you know, to your point, that board meetings are really places that we confirm decisions rather than exchange ideas. And the
And I
idea,
like how you put that exchange. I think.
yeah. And so the opportunity, especially with board members present, and admittedly, it's not the full board for the Brown Act reasons, but it is an opportunity to talk to board members. And there's so much, especially around the more difficult issues where, a community, especially many stakeholders that don't often get a hearing, don't feel respected in board meetings because of the kind of the structure of the board meeting. It's not anything inherent in what we all are doing, but it's just and so the
Well,
opportunity
the
to
parents
sort
will
of
say, I just commented on
Yeah.
that,
And
and
you-
none of you
You're
responded.
right. Mhm.
What many parents don't know is the Brown Act limits
Right.
board members.
Correct.
right
So some
explicitly.
parents might only go to one board meeting their whole life,
Mhm. Mhm.
but the one they went to and spoke at, when the board doesn't immediately respond,
Right.
they take offense. To that.
Mhm.
They feel I wasn't being heard, and that's what I think is at the heart
Exactly.
Mhm.
of the board and community workshop.
Mhm.
This is happening Thursday, October
Exciting.
28th,
Yeah.
6 p.m. It's on our district website. We're going to send this message out to the Park families, the Highland families, the Baywood families, the
Sunny Bray.
Sunny Bray families.
Oh, should I let you remember?
No, I really wanted one of you guys to tell me. Our Burrell families. Childcare provided, translation provided, food provided. Come join us. Come get together with us. But we're going to talk about a lot of issues that when we're there. We're going to talk about health and safety. We're going to talk about COVID. We're going to talk about social emotional learning. We're going to talk about the ideas behind pool testing and vaccination. But we're also going to talk about math.
Math.
Mhm.
Awesome.
And Pam, you've been in the district as a director of curriculum and instruction, but also as a principal.
Mhm.
Talk to the families for a couple of minutes about our new math curriculum. Talk to them about Zern math and about illustrative math.
Mhm.
What's your take on it? What are you seeing in terms of what kids are learning? What's different about the math that we have going on?
Well, I'm lucky enough that actually today I spent some time in a math classroom in at Park School, and it was amazing. In an upper grade math. I think one of the things
Shout
that,
out to our little Panthers.
Shout out, I love
Park School
okay.
principal Christina Haley.
Awesome. And the students it was a 4 or 5 combination class, and they were doing such amazing work, and they were partnering, and they were talking about the mathematics. I think, starting here in this district about 20 years ago as a teacher, and then moving into the position that I'm in now, I think one of the big things that Zern and illustrative math bring is helping build what we call conceptual understanding of the mathematics. So what I got to see today in the 4-5 class was students doing the standard algorithm next to, I can't remember what they called it. The kids are better at it's like a table where you kind of break down the larger multiplication number. And so students are breaking apart the numbers, putting them back together, but also learning that alongside the standard algorithm. So I think what the programs bring is opportunities for students to engage in discussion on mathematics, but to make sense of, the math that families know, from when we all went to school, but putting that next to well, why do we multiply in that way? Or what does multiplication mean? We call that like number sense. So just really giving the students opportunities to do that.
And also putting them in math experiences in the class where there's an explanation for why we do something that connects to something outside of math.
Yes.
Where there's lots of examples of how the math is applied outside of school. And I think all of us.
Real world problems.
Real world
Mhm,
problems.
mhm.
And I think all of us were taught math in a way where we were taught how to do something
Mhm.
to get a number.
Mhm.
When you see something that looks like this, do this and you'll get this. So when you went and tried to do something with your hands, it was difficult to apply the math that you learned because there was never a connection between doing the math work on a piece of paper and how you would actually apply the math.
Mhm.
For something simple like if we wanted to resod our backyard,
Mhm.
maybe that's a bad example in the Bay Area, but if we wanted to resod our backyard,
Yeah.
we would basically need to do some math in there.
Mhm.
We would need to figure out if this piece of sod that they sell at Lowe's
Mhm.
comes in a 2 foot by 3 foot,
Mhm.
and I have a backyard that's 30 feet by 90 feet. How many do I need? Will I have any left over? Knowing how to multiply isn't going to help me do that. I have to be able to think about how to create a graph and how to take components and piece them together
Mhm.
in order to understand how much I need. Once I know how much I need, then it's a calculus of how much it costs.
Mhm.
And that's, I think, what
Mhm.
comes with Zern math is
Mhm.
that kind of problem-based math
Mhm.
approach.
Absolutely. I think, and the other exciting thing I think, well, that you see in our math classrooms is what we call math routines. And so all of the, yeah, so all of the, and this goes along with Zern, I say it partners with Zern, is we want every classroom and every student to engage what we call math routines, which means you start the lesson with a strategy we use called notice and wonder. So it could be like a picture of, which kids like, we all know kids like cupcakes. So it could be like a picture of lots of different cupcakes, but it's really an array. An array will help students in lower grades understand multiplication. But before you get into let's multiply 5 by 5, we talk about what do you notice and what do you wonder? And what that really does, those routines allow every student in the room to hear each other's mathematical thinking. Because you might see, and you can even think about, sodding the backyard. You might see it in one way, but Stephanie might see it in a different way. And so then the teacher hears the students thinking around mathematics and then uses that as they're engaging in their math lesson. And that's kind of where they bring in the real world because we're also building students' background knowledge. So math routines, there's other ways, it could be even just like the notice and wonder. It could be what we call a math talk. So a math talk isn't just about like what's the answer. The teacher could put up a problem or could put up a number in the lower grades, like maybe just they even put up the number 8 and you don't say anything. You ask students, what do you know about this? And they could just say, well, I know that's the number 8. Okay, great. What else do we notice about it? Well, I know 4 plus 4 is 8. Great. And then it takes them into this just like these great conversations about mathematics. And those are only like 5 to 10 minutes, just like warm up, get kids thinking, get them ready for math and hearing from each other. Get them talking. Get them talking.
Take math away from just simply writing and computing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
David, you've been at the head of the district's Ed Services Department. The decision last spring to have all of our students take 6th grade math together this year. How's that going so far? What are we seeing? What are you hearing from your math team about 6th grade math?
Yeah. Well, I mean, it dovetails well with some of the points that Pam was making is that we are seeing classrooms where students from broad spectrum of backgrounds and really, frankly, broad diversity of how they think of themselves as math learners, from very confident to not confident, and in classes together and really engaged in these conversations and tackling the so-called multiple routes and representations in mathematics. Um, and we're at this point we're certainly working from teacher report and from leader report, but we're seeing the kind of engagement that we know down the line builds math expertise. I do see our math 6 teachers are engaged in a level of collaboration and sharing of ideas and problem solving because we know that in in making the shift that we made, that we actually challenged them to take on, in some ways, a more difficult teaching project. And so they've been working well together and thinking about the pacing of their work, and how do we make sure that we're meeting the different learning needs of students in our classrooms, and what are the strategies we need to be using to do those. So the energy is incredibly positive. The engagement from students is high, and teacher enthusiasm for the work. This is everybody leaning in a really
you-
positive way.
And you just gave a district-wide math test.
Yes,
Mhm.
that's correct.
A couple weeks ago, the
Mhm.
district put a math test
Mhm.
and said, all our students are taking this. And what grade levels actually took those tests?
Yeah, well, we
K8.
did it. Yeah, we did it K8, and importantly,
And every school.
at
Every
every
school.
school. Yeah,
Every classroom.
and importantly, this was a kind of assessment that teachers could immediately learn from. And they did scoring together, so they could learn together about what they were seeing, the strengths and challenges of students were giving evidence of. And that is something that they can then immediately, and did immediately, go back into their classrooms and address. And so this wasn't an assessment that just then went to the district and it was some data that somebody wanted somewhere to collect, but it was actually formative data that allowed them to make the adjustments in their instruction in the following weeks. So
And then you and your team use that data, and you've started a process to create some tutoring programs.
That's
Talk
correct.
about that.
yeah, well, the idea is, any kind of assessment, and particularly this one, gives us a sense of students that, basically learned the material that they were taught well, and those who were still struggling. And so we have the ability to take that assessment data and to identify the students who are on the struggling end. And the plan is, at this point, is to share that data back with our schools and talk with them about the ways in which we can now follow up with those specifically really struggling students in a targeted, short term, 10, 12 after school days, where they can work with their teachers and really shore up where they have that challenges. And so we're not finding this out in 3 months. We're not finding it out next year. We're finding it out now.
And we're finding it out with kids who are 5 years old
Yes.
and 6 years old,
Mhm.
not
Waiting till
grade,
third,
right.
because they first take the CASP.
When they first take the CASP. Yeah.
because for
Right.
many years we have waited into
Mhm.
that.
Mhm.
Is that fair to say?
Yeah.
That is fair to say.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah. So we've got,
And I would just add, and we've got resources. I mean, one of the challenges of the pandemic was certainly the computer-based distance learning, but there was a lot of capacity built in that process, where now, both for the intervention program and in our
Mhm.
core programs, we're now using computer-based resources that we haven't used before, which really opens up the possibility of what you can do after school, but even as well, what we can ultimately do at home.
so you've got a new math curriculum.
Mhm.
You have teachers who are now going into their second year teaching it.
Mhm.
We have a test that we just gave that's district-wide. We now know which students struggled on that first test. Talk about ST Math. What is ST Math? How does ST Math factor into the way we help students moving forward?
Mhm. I can start off and then you
Please,
can add.
yeah.
Okay. So ST Math is an online mathematics program that we actually used in our middle schools for a few years. And it was until a couple of years ago, when we hired some additional math TOSAs, that we started bringing ST Math, the program, to some of our elementary schools. And so what's great about ST Math is it's it's actually fun. It looks like a game. It doesn't have as much, sometimes the mathematics in the curriculum is very language heavy, which we want that for our students, but for students to engage in additional practice, especially around some foundational skills that they might need, sometimes you want the extra math to not have as much of that language piece. And so what ST Math does, it's a great program that's online that gives kids some more visuals and some fun games to engage in the mathematical foundational skills that they need some more practice with, or to extend their learning. I mean, it's
Can do both.
unlimited. You can extend your learning in math. You can practice more skills in math. It's very individualized, because when students first start on the program, you take a little assessment so they can see where you are, and then you just keep moving from there. I don't know if you want to add any.
Oh, just that.
And there's a cute penguin.
Yes.
Everyone loves the penguin.
Yes. Who?
Now I have to ask, do you have a background in theater?
Why?
Well, you just the
Did
way
I
you
sound like
perform is
it?
very-
I might have a background in theater.
Well, I would just add
Yeah.
to your point that that the focus of the ST Math content is on that conceptual understanding that you mentioned earlier, which is the foundational work. It's not students necessarily repeating multiplication problems, but it's actually these multiple ways of understanding what you do when you multiply, which in a
Grouping,
game,
sorting.
yeah,
And
exactly.
it has, and if you get it wrong, it does it in a way where it like brings it to you in a different way, and then brings it back again. So it allows students to really it's not going to let them pass that until they're showing understanding of whatever that piece
Now,
is.
You said we did this at our middle schools.
Mhm.
I'm new to the district. My approach to everything is to always figure out what we believe works,
Mhm.
put it in place, and then just at my core, I believe in checking to see how we're doing.
Mhm.
So is it fair to say that in previous years, we didn't have a district-wide implementation?
Correct. Yes.
Is it fair to say that we didn't check and monitor and report how many students were using it, how many hours they were using it?
Mhm.
I'm assuming ST Math has some recommendations
Absolutely.
on how
Yeah.
often they should
Mhm.
use the program.
Mhm.
If ST Math says we want kids to do 90 minutes a week, that will become my goal.
Mhm.
If we're using ST Math and I have, is it K to 8?
You can use it. We're focusing right now on elementary and as an intervention. And
If it's
middle
K to
school.
8,
Mhm.
if it's K to 6, and my Park School Panthers,
Mhm.
there's 400 and some odd kids at that school.
Mhm.
I want 400 and some odd kids using the program.
Mhm.
And if it's 90 minutes, I want them using it for 90 minutes. And if there are kids who need accommodations, we want to reach out to those
Yeah.
families and give them the accommodations to maybe do something more paper pencil based.
Mhm.
There are some kids who are overloaded by how much technology there is.
Mhm.
But what it allows me to do is check to see how students are doing.
Mhm.
Because if we know we have 5 and 6-year-olds who are struggling with math already, and I give them a program like ST Math, and they use it for 90 minutes a week, every week, all kindergarten, all first grade, they're going to show up to second grade ready to do some math.
Mhm. Mhm.
And if we don't give them that program, I don't think they'll do math on their own
Mhm.
because there are too many obstacles in the way. Now we're in a district where we have Chromebooks for every child. We have 1,400 hotspots that are out deployed to families. Families, if you need a hotspot, call your school principal. We have them.
Mhm.
We're ready to give you internet access at home. So it's more of a full service, full academic focus that we're bringing to it. And I think we're getting close to bringing parents into the conversation about what we do with 7th, 8th grade math and algebra.
Yes.
So David, you and I
Sure.
have some dates coming up.
Yeah.
These are
Cafe con Diego.
Café con Diego
Nice.
events for all those parents out there. Diego, I don't have the Café con Diego printout for me, but you're gonna plug that into the chat. And what we want to do is we basically want to invite parents to come to these Café con Diego meetings to talk about 7th grade math, 8th grade math, and algebra. We want to hear from you before we make the final decision.
Mhm.
Talk about the plan that was put in place in the spring from the perspective of what we said we were going to do this year before we made our next decision.
Right. Well, we knew, we made the recommendation at the time for the shift around the Math 6 work. And
The
we-
board approved it in April.
Correct. And we said that we wanted to engage with our stakeholders, which obviously including our parents and community, around then, okay, if we have a heterogeneous, everybody takes Math 6, what are the options for students from there? And frankly, made the commitment that we wanted to accelerate and grow the number of students who were participating in algebra
So
as 8th graders.
historically, about 20% of the kids
Mhm.
are taking algebra in 8th grade. The
Correct.
last few years, it's about
About
20%.
20. Mhm.
Mhm. And within that 20%, we also observed some disturbing trends in terms of what was the representation of students in those, and we're committed to
We saw
changing
low-income
that.
students weren't getting into algebra.
Mhm.
Yeah.
We saw English learner students were
Mhm.
not getting into algebra. We saw Latinx students, a very low percentage were getting into algebra. African American students, a very low percentage. So our goal, our conversation has
Mhm.
been, let's get our number up to 40%. Let's get our number up to 40% within 3 years and then see where we're at.
Mhm.
Take a look at our data and find out how it's going with this increase in the number of kids who are in algebra. So we've got our board community workshop, October 28th at 6 p.m., Thursday night. Food, daycare, translation, open conversation about math, among other topics. We've got Café con Diego's coming on board. I think they're next week.
Yeah, that's great.
Next week, multiple Café con Diego's. The next week, a couple more Café con Diego's. Our next YouTube live stream will focus on math. My recommendation to the board will come in November,
Great. Mhm.
but we're in October, so we've got 7 or 8 different opportunities for families to get involved in the conversation about 7th, 8th grade math and algebra, because we really want families to hear from us that we want to increase the number of kids who get into algebra in this district. And we want to create a process for them to tell us what they think,
Mhm.
so we can know what the sentiment is in the community when we make our final decision. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, I think that's it.
Yeah. We've done a lot of talking. What we try to do here is we try to open up for comments from the community. We've got a couple in there tonight. We want to open that up. I think our first comment, Diego, if you want to hand me our sheet. Our first comment really relates to pool testing. It's the, and I'll take this one, Stephanie, but it's of the students who are in our district, what percent are enrolled in pool testing? The nice thing, every single week you send me new data showing how many have signed up, so I know on a weekly basis. When we started, we were in the 50% range. We did it quickly, as we talked about at the time.
Yep.
And then what we've seen is every single week, more families
Nice.
sign up. So we have some schools where we have close to 85% signed up,
Yeah.
close to 90% signed up at many schools. And then we have other schools where about 50% are signed up. So what we're doing is we're now doing outreach to those schools that are in the low 50s to try to get their numbers up to the 70s and 80s. District-wide, we're getting close to 70% signed up, right around that number. We also have every single employee in the district, over 1,300 employees in the system signed up on a weekly basis. So we're close to that 7,000 number district-wide, which is great. Our goal is to get up to the 9,000 number. I might never get there, but that's okay, because I just keep going day after day, encouraging families to sign up, helping staff make those phone calls to families, knowing that for some, they'll never sign up, and that's their choice, and we're not making it a requirement. So we're really, really going towards that goal. We've got a question on data from formative assessments built into Math Nation. So that's true. We do have data for Math Nation that's put together. It's in our system now. I think the question here is, what does that data look like? We have a YouTube live stream that's going to happen in a couple of weeks. I would really actually like for you guys to put that into a chart and let's present it to families. Let's have that be one of the slides. We always say in these events, we get questions, they're great questions, and we bring them to the next meeting. So that's what we'll do. We'll get that data, we'll organize it, maybe have it broken down so we have by English learner, by school, by ethnicity, by home language, that kind of thing, students with disabilities, so we can get an idea of how groups of students are doing. That's an excellent question. Thank you for that. And then, Diego, we have a couple more if you can get those plugged in for me here. Stephanie, I want to take this opportunity, talk about the infrastructure that you have in how you work with Concentric and how our staff works with schools in terms of contacting families and organizing the process for getting parents and our students enrolled into the system.
Yes, absolutely. Our schools have a designated test champion as the they oversee everything that happens at the site, and
Because again, we're at 21 schools.
21 schools, the largest number of schools of any district in San Mateo County. So that's essentially, to say it in this way, is it's 21 test sites. So each site needs that point person, that test champion, who processes the processes the consent forms, and does all the back end work to prepare the lists for testing, reaches out to the families, follows up, asks for, did you get the paper form? We've had schools sending the paper forms home with the students to bring home directly to the parents, and school messengers being utilized to send out messages to the families. So there's many different ways that we're getting, the test champions are getting that message out to encourage our families to sign up and to provide the sign up. So they're doing a great job, our champions. Pretty great.
Who calls the parents? One of the questions that came in is which staff is actually making phone calls?
Well, I think it'll vary site to site. It'll vary site to site. We have sites that have school community workers. We have sites, with AA, administrative assistants, school office specialists. So it really does kind of depend on how the site has decided is the best approach for their community and what they have learned from past, communication drives, what works.
Yeah. If you use an example like Beach Park, a small school, they have one office staff. It's pretty easy to figure out who's making the phone call. You take it. I was at Sunnybray Elementary School today. Shout out to our bees over at Sunnybray and to Principal Bowie, myself and our school board president, Kenneth Chin. We were there today. And they've got a receptionist, they've got an administrative assistant, they've got a community service work. I mean, they have an infrastructure of staff.
Yes.
They might break it up into three. You might call on Monday, you might call on Tuesday. So each school is going to have a program that fits for them, but those phone calls are, definitely coming together. We have a question. How is a board community workshop in a middle school complex equitable opportunity for parents to input on math issue? I think the way that question is worded makes it sound inequitable. So I want to reiterate, we're going to give parents multiple opportunities before any decision is made. I just commented about the board community workshop that I'm excited about the opportunity. It's a great place to hear directly from parents. But there are many, many opportunities coming ahead. We're going to hold specific YouTube live streams to invite parents to attend, to ask questions and give ideas during the events that are coming up. We'll have, before the decision is made, multiple YouTube live stream events. We'll be sending a survey to every middle school parent in the district about middle school math to hear directly from any parent that uses their smartphone and gets their emails from us, as well as having events at those school board meetings where parents can see the presentation, comment on the presentation. We have a new process in the district where when we hold a school board meeting, we actually create a Google form that will allow parents to see the presentations and give written input on the presentations that we then, Diego puts this together, Diego Perez from our communications department. We put this together and we bring it to the table when we hold the school board meeting. So it's a lot of different ways to get input. Also, don't forget, we're having Café con Diego events. Diego, do you have the dates there? If you can just, you're gonna have to zoom in on that. I can't see it from where I'm sitting. But he's gonna zoom in just a second. We have October 25th at Abbott Middle School, October 26th at Bayside Academy, November 8th at Burrell Middle School, and November 9th at Bowditch Middle School. So these are 4 separate events at 4 middle schools, in addition to the YouTube live streams, and in addition to the board community workshops, and in addition to the survey we're gonna send to every middle school parent.
And the board community workshops are at all the complexes.
Yeah, unfortunately, only one before
that
this
one,
decision
got it.
is likely gonna be made. I think we're gonna have a lot of input.
Yeah.
We're gonna have a lot of opportunity out there. It's part of a process that we're trying to put in place where we reach out to families, where we invite those comments earlier, where we give, where we give people a path to communicate with us. That's what this is about. That's what our board community workshops are about.
Great.
Tonight's event's coming to a close. I want to thank all of you for being with me. We are going to have our next YouTube live stream coming out very soon. I want to encourage families to go ahead and check out our district's website for updates about safe return to school, for updates about board community workshop, to be able to attend our school board meetings, which are broadcast every time we hold a meeting. And our next is actually tomorrow night, October 21st. So join us there. To all the parents, thank you so much for participating into my panel. You're the best. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Diego.